starts to do its magic.
So it's somehow again something like a 10-factor authentication.
Yeah, along those lines, along those lines. So I'm going to do my usual and try and like minimize my 8,000 things that I've got open. Um, and then I'm going to share my screen again. Wow, I really do have so much open. That can go, that can go.
If you
Go.
don't have something to start with, I threw a MR into the chat. I don't know why it broke.
Oh yeah, of course. We'll take a look at
It's a bunch of
just
500 errors, and I don't know why I would be getting a 500 error.
so the sound of it is probably just a transient thing that requires a retry, but I'll have a look in a sec. Right, I think I've closed all the scary windows. Right. Oh, no, one more hiding somewhere. Oh, one password. That's a very scary window. Okay. So, code is to install. Okay. Okay, so this I'm interested in. These ones are known issues, if that makes sense. So if you look at jobs for this project, you will see um, the sales job failing, the update job failing, time and
Okay,
time
so
again.
those ones failing is fine then.
Absolutely. And was this one, the danger one, was that
It's yelling at me for how my commit looks.
cool. Cool. Okay. So yeah, apologies for that. There's an issue. I think one of the jobs is sales, isn't it? Oh, always helpful when the search doesn't help. Uh, yeah, I think it was the first one. Verify the reason why the sales jobs fails and fix it. So yeah, someone's looking at it, but not not got much very far with it yet. So unfortunately, it's one where it's rare for me to do this, but the moment when I'm merging MRs in this repo, I just ignore the failures in those two jobs and merge anyway. So yeah, they are not to worry about. So at the end of last week, we talked about AI use cases essentially, and specifically for sort of like agents and flows, etc. And the two that we kind of brainstormed were like one for writing unit tests, and the other one was for kind of getting to know a project. Um, we kind of discussed both on that call and internally after that. The getting to know a new project is a really interesting, really nice one that it kind of really resonates with us, but we're not normal.
Hmm.
And normal people tend to operate in few or one code base, if that makes sense. And again, I know like that's a huge sort of assumption and brush to sort of tar people with, but I think that whilst there's obviously a huge diverse range of people with different personas, etc., I think the one of the more common is definitely that people that are staying in one or several repos and know those repos they've been working in them, etc. So we decided to focus on the unit test one. We've got a few other exciting ones as well that we're looking at, but the unit test one. Um, so I'll show you kind of where I got to with that. So this is my prompt. So I've told it it's specifically creating a unit test writer for the front end in the contributor platform. So I want it to be a really kind of I don't know what you want to call it, like a real thing. I don't want it to be like fictitious. Oh, you work in this foobar project or whatever. So it's very deliberate. It's something that we can use. It works for us. Um, so it kind of said that you create unit tests to catch bugs and prevent incidents and make them so developers can understand them, specifically for Vue.js. Um, and saying that we use Vue router within the project and we use Axios for our API calls. We explain where to find the JavaScript and the kind of naming convention or where to find the tests essentially. Um, and then also tell it how to run tests and how to run like the front end linting as well. Um, and then I've kind of gone through and told it, it's really interesting actually, Dennis. I don't know, like if this sort of resonates with you as well, but when I was going through and kind of documenting this, like some of this is kind of in the README.
Mhm.
Some of it isn't, but it does kind of make me wonder if like there's a clever way of, if this became a generic agent and it said, look at the readme.md to determine how to run tests, what the tech stack is, and what the best practices for tests are, etc. Or if there's some clever way that we can tie these things together, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, in the end, this would tie together with an agent's MD, for example, probably.
r- right, right. Um, does the agent's MD though have like, I don't know. I don't know what you're left with after you strip all this out, if that makes sense. I guess nothing really.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, I've told it to use shallow mount. If you need the child components, just render default slots. If you really, really need them, then don't stub the specific components. How we define our wrapper, not to import things that are available globally. And the most important thing I think is about like the testing practices. I see a lot of, I don't know if this is when AI does it or even when the community or team members or whatever, but the like testing internals, like calling a method like wrapper.vm dot compute something and testing that it does what it's supposed to do. But our GitLab standards are definitely not to test those internals, but to test more like the inputs and the outputs. So, the DOM renders like these objects, these buttons, and clicking on this button, navigates to this page or it pops up this modal or changes this bit of text or whatever it might do. So
Yeah.
uh,
I think
that's
this is pretty, yeah, let's say front end best practices of what you are talking about. And I mean, you don't want to really test the unstructured behavior a component brings with. You just want to test the behavior, what a component is doing if you assume this is getting into it, and that should come out with that. I think that's
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And then some of the kind of the techniques that we use to achieve that, and some of the other tests, just check that the API calls are being made using mocks and spires, and ensure view router is being used using mocks and spires. Um, this it has ignored a few times, but I've tried quite heavily to tell it not to call like wrapper.vm.method or wrapper.vm.variable, but always, trigger the emitting of the child components and then provided a
And
couple of examples. Go
did
on.
you try it out? So is it still, let's say, hallucinating that even if you said it once?
I've ran it a couple of times. The first time it wasn't brilliant. The second time it was brilliant. So
Okay.
I still feel a little bit like the nature of AI. I don't know if the temperature is configured or what the temperature is configured at, or if we have any influence over that, whether that would improve things. So what I was trying
Well,
go on.
what I also do if I figured out that the agent is sometimes not doing what I want to do, is that
Hmm.
I then harden the prompt or yeah, the system prompt in that direction, that I do something like um, it's maybe a pre-response validation. So at the start of the system prompt, I tell him definitely do not this. Then do all of the mandatory steps and required steps the agent should do. And in the end, I again have something like a post response validation and tell him then, okay,
Okay.
if you do this or if you did that, then remove it or revise your response you did. And based on this
Okay.
behavior, it's I have a feeling that it yeah got better quality. And I also have
Nice.
even something yeah a final validation checklist. So that I tell the agent inside the system prompt that before he's sending the response, he should verify all of the constraints I gave him also in the beginning.
Right. So the main thing that I did that improved the quality significantly, which I really enjoyed, was I took the conversation that I had with it along with the prompt, and I asked it itself, given this prompt and this conversation, can you help me improve the prompt?
Yeah, I
And
I
that
did
that
exactly
was
the
really
same. Yeah.
effective. So what I was trying to do, I just realized I did it in the canonical and I wanted to do it in the fork. So, but what I wanted to do is kind of pretend and rewind a little bit. So we've got a start onboarding modal, um, which we introduced fairly recently. So I kind of wanted to delete the test suite for that modal, and create a branch, new onboarding modal. Because one of the things that I did find, and now is I don't know quite what the agent has access to. And I think it might have access to the file that you've deleted. So I think creating a new branch without the file or a commit without the file before I start working is a good idea because I'm sure it did some stuff where before it found the file, even though I thought I'd deleted it. So I'm just gonna create a new branch with this. Um, Yeah, new branch.
One question I have for you. I
Hmm.
noticed on the previous page that you were at on the GitLab page, it mentioned tools at the bottom.
Yes.
Are those how are those tools defined? Are those on a platform level or are they on like a repo level or how does that make
So
sense?
repo, if I understand correctly, and I'm probably not going to be able to find the file, Dennis might be able to point me better, but there's somewhere like tool definitions within this AI gateway slash Duo workflow service project. And the GitLab monolith makes a API call, whether it's a gRPC or REST, I can't remember, and gets a list of all these tools
So if I wanted to create
periodically.
my own tool, I would not be able to do that, or would I?
So, no, I don't think you would really. There's the ability to add MCP servers within the IDE, and I'm guessing in future probably within the web as well. But at the moment, I think you're limited. I was going to say limited to the tools that are available. We've also just added GitLab API generic, probably this one, yeah, 3 days ago. Um, which means you can also now pretty much any GitLab API you can use. So like that definitely opens up almost infinite possibilities within the GitLab platform itself. But if you want some kind of custom other thing, then that might be a bit more tricky at the moment.
Okay.
So I deleted my file. I've made a commit. I pushed my branch. So yeah, let's try and watch it crash and burn. So we start our new Vue.js test writer and we ask him, can you please write some unit tests? My new Vue component. I also found myself being a bit impatient before. I was a bit trigger happy when it asked for the approvals. If you click it too quickly, it breaks. But I've learned my lesson now. So what's it doing? It's looking at another test file to kind of get a bit of a feel for things. I hope it's read my custom instructions, but I still think it's probably a good idea to check some of
I,
this stuff as
yeah.
well.
And I didn't see if you actually selected the right agent, but I guess you did, right?
I did. Maybe afterwards I could ask it what its name is, but even seeing that it's trying to run this is fairly reassuring because
Yeah.
that it's getting from the project. But what I can see there is that that's not quite right because the you need to run that from the contributors folder. So I'm going to see what happens if it understands its mistake and if it rectifies it.
Is that running in a dev container actually?
No, so I probably can move back to the dev container at some point, but I my brain got a little bit fried when I was trying to do it at the weekend. Um, because the dev container doesn't run from the root of the Git repository, there it was having issues. I can't remember if I couldn't see my custom agent or there was something that just wasn't quite playing ball. So I just yeah, I took the easy way out for the moment. Oh, there we
Oh,
go. Maybe I'll try it immediately after this in the dev container.
I'm still convinced that dev containers are pure magic.
That awesome. They are awesome. But yeah, they do bring some fun. So what happened there? It said it was going to do this, but it didn't, right? So it's asking me if it can do it again. I'll prove it again. This time it did do it and it did work. We got some failures. Good. This is another thing that when I was asking chat about my prompt, that it suggested like you may also want to tell it like how many times you want it to iterate before it not gives up, but
Hmm.
before it asks for like human intervention. If
So
it's
you want
really
them in a loop forever?
yeah, kind of like yeah, there might just be a set number of times where you get fed up where you're like, I know exactly what it's doing wrong, and I want to tell it what it's doing wrong rather than letting it try and figure it out itself. Um, so I can't immediately see. So with Shallow Mountain, rendering default slot. So what it's doing looks quite reasonable. We're creating wrapper in all these tests, so I can't see like anything scary and glaring that it's. This is what also I think threw me off at one point. The left and right, I was thinking, well, this is was my original file and this is its changes. But every time I think you like every time it makes some changes, um, it shows you what it's changed. So it's kind of like, oh, this was my previous iteration or the agent's previous iteration, and this is its latest iteration. So I
Hmm.
found that a bit confusing. I thought this was kind of like my diff, but it's like, well, no, this is the latest diff. Um,
So you mean it compares the diff with a diff?
Yeah, sort of like basically it's doing a diff since its last like it'll only show you what it's changed itself. It won't show you or in its most recent. So if it decides it wants to make some more changes like here, now this will be interesting to see if it does make any changes. Um, okay, so it's found a couple of issues and it's saying it's going to fix those. So I'm hoping that now I'll be able to see those in this diff. So I can see the B button import's no longer there. Um, yeah, there you go. B button import's been removed. The find form and find start button have been removed, and I think that's basically what it was saying. Those weren't used.
So
So
this is
yeah,
almost
this.
like you have to manually approve their change before it gets into the get diff almost.
So I don't think I didn't have to approve the edit files, which is interesting. I only have to approve the run command, I guess, because it could be quite malicious if you're not careful. I don't want to give anyone any ideas, you know.
Let's just give the AI root access.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost want to experiment with like can it access outside of its like the Git folder or whatever. Hopefully that's kind of the guardrails prevent that. But awesome. So like I felt that was that felt good. I'm gonna have a look at the spec with you now to see what we all think of it. But the experience I enjoy it when it doesn't get it perfect first time, if that makes sense. It shows that kind of the real, I don't know, real human experience of okay, I tried this and then I had to try
And
that. And
yeah, and naturally this even for let's say the vibe coder or the user who is yeah viewing the agent is doing something, that there is more learning experience behind that. So
yeah,
better like seeing the agent failing like a normal human would also do, and then see what the agent is doing and how he troubleshoots it, and maybe what the agent is changing, and in the end seeing some success. I think
yeah,
that's yeah, I also like that.
absolutely.
That's also even like how I use the yeah LLM stuff, because I never want to write a prompt, copy paste, and don't understand what's behind. And most of that, I try to understand actually what the agent is doing and ask why he did stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's one of my favorite things is like on merge requests now, rather than necessarily going straight back to like the author or with a when I'm reviewing and asking a question, I'll quite often ask Duo and say,
Hmm.
you know, I think this might be a better approach, or can you help me understand what the benefits or differences are between this approach and that approach, etc.
Yeah.
I
Um,
I love using Duo and other AIs just for code reviews because it catches so many things.
Yeah, I've even said to a few people, like, even just when it catches typos and stuff, right? It's like, yeah, I really enjoy it. Um, so yeah, it has done a shallow mount, which is one of the things I asked it to do. It's done the global wrapper, sort of same technique I always use. We use in this project for sort of reusable thingamybobs. It's mocked Axios and sort of mocked window location. We'll see how that's used. So we check that the title's good. Um, we check that the model value is true and check some random text. And then we say it renders the reason input when the referrer prop is null. Doesn't render it when it's not null. Yeah, great. That seems like a logical test that I would include. Um, Includes a data list with the predefined options. Yeah, fair enough. I've started to, I haven't decided whether this is a good practice or a bad practice, but I've started to do like a snapshot test to cover a lot of this stuff. where we're just checking that text is rendered and a data list is present, etc. I tend to just do like a snapshot test, and that kind of combines all of that into one. So again, yeah, when there's lots of tests that just check in that some text appears on the screen. So I don't know, maybe that might be a way if I wanted to iterate and improve on this prompt a little bit further, but it's definitely it is covering what I want it to cover. Checking all the text boxes, they've got the right label and value, nice.
What, why is it using the 0 and 1? Why is it using array?
Because there's a whole bunch of checkboxes, or is that not quite what you mean?
You can't. Uh, isn't it better practice to identify it through tag or IDs or something instead of?
See, I don't like doing that, to be honest. I know some people like are in the habit of using test IDs to like tag each component so you can then find the component to use it. But I feel like that's a massive smell, like doing that, basically writing code just for the tests. And also, this is a dynamic list, so it's kind of created. So if I show you the modal, you basically just got this array here, and then it uses v4 somewhere. Now we could, I guess, do like I don't know what it is, data test ID equals interest dot value or something like that. But I think this way is okay. The way that I tend to do it, I'll show you an example. I think our roots.spec. What we do is we kind of grab all of the pretend these are checkboxes. They happen to be roots in this example, and we use map to then basically create a string array, and then we check that that string array matches our predefined string array. So yeah, we could sort of do a map on the checkboxes and check that the result is code, doc, social, CI, etc. But I think that's okay the way it's chosen to do it. So renders interest. Okay, so languages. So it doesn't render the languages when code is not selected. And then it does render them when it is selected, and that's the correct way. You know, we're not modifying the VM directly, we're emitting the event, so I like it. Yeah, again, it's been a bit verbose. I don't know why. Okay, so it's checking the first one and the last one. That's an interesting approach. I don't know why I'm. Oh, no, okay. So this one checked the first, second, last, and penultimate, but not the middle ones. And this one just tested the first and last. That's an interesting approach. But again, I definitely wouldn't go this mad anyway. So it's all good. So it renders the button. When the form is submitted, it calls the API, which is perfect. So again, it sets some values first. And then checks that the right data is passed to the API. Nice. Redirects to the onboarding issue. So that's why we had to sort of delete or sort of mock. We're not exactly mocking, but that's fine. When the form is submitted with referrer prop, it uses a referrer. Yeah, okay, that's good. And when the form is submitted with languages selected, yeah. So it's definitely been verbose, thorough, whatever you want to call it. I would probably reduce the number a little bit. So if I was to refine the prompt, I'd probably say like maybe it doesn't need to go quite OTT, but I'm really happy, and I think we'll find the coverage for that is pretty high. Now I've got to remember if I cd contributor npm run test coverage. Is that right? Right. Try that.
I think it's something like coverage report or something.
No, I think it's just because I was I thought it's because I was in the wrong folder. Maybe it's because I was telling it the file itself, not the test. There we go. So it's saying that's 93%. So it's saying uncovered line number 50 is that. What does line 50 do? So that's the V model on the template, which is bound to the model which is passed in. So do we model value is true? Yeah, so we've hard coded this to true. It's never set to false. So arguably that's the one gap. Again, I wonder if I wanted to keep iterating, if I'd sort of tell it to run this command instead, the coverage one, and tell it something like, don't give up until you reach 100% test coverage. That feels like a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit higher than, yeah, I don't know, like maybe they all have to be 90 or something like that. But
Right. I
but
think the industry standard is don't have 100% code coverage because it's a waste of time.
yeah, you're probably going to end up hindering rather than helping, right?
Right. And you'll have a bunch of useless tests taking up uh, CPU time.
Yeah, and also I think like now I'd be interested to see like if I make one change, like do 10 tests fail rather than one test, which is I think ideally what you want to happen. Cool, awesome. Is there anything else on either of your lists? I always have like MRs in the wings that I can work on, etc. But no, nothing. Okay, cool.
No, nothing from me.
The only
Okay.
question I have, the one that I sent you this morning already, who who would be best? Would that be Raymond best to review that one I sent?
Was it in
Oh,
Discord or?
the one in chat.
Oh, I could possibly do that.
Because I tagged Raymond and Matthias. Is that how you pronounce his
Yeah,
name?
I hope so because that's how I've been pronouncing it. Da, 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 da.
On the ticket itself, I tagged him, so it's
That's
that one
fine.
right there. And I don't know why I started it with a number or a pound sign, but I did for
That's
some
fine.
reason.
That's fine. Okay, so yeah, you know you've got your things to that it's moaning about that need to be fixed. Um, yeah, I mean to be honest, I think I might be the only one of the three of us that can merge it. Um, so this is something that when you run GDK update, it basically um, it runs this, right? So by running it in the pipeline, it avoids us having to run it when we do GDK update. Is that right?
So as soon as you download the system,
Hmm.
so looking at it from a contributor standpoint, one of the first things we do is GDK tell people if you have problems, GDK doctor, right?
Right. Doctor suggests it. Okay.
And
Okay.
so doctor's always suggesting it, so get rid of it so that we don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I might ask as well is see who it's suggested. I'm going to ask this person.
Because I don't know in this particular project who is the SME for this. The only
Yeah,
person I
so
can think of particular for GDK in a box is Raymond.
So we're definitely contribute to success definitely for GDK in a box. But the thing is, the question I have is more of a GDK than a GDK in a box question, if that makes sense. Um, um, this MR takes care of it when building a container. So you don't have the
So if you take a look at the linked issue, I think I describe it pretty well. I describe it somewhat well.
So the issue, that's one important thing. Let's just add that quickly. It says in there, but not in here. Uh, so yeah, what we said, yeah. So I want to find out, like, it might be that this is completely, I don't know what you want to call it, like false positive or
Like we can
um
delete it from the cat because it's just a
y-
file. Just delete it from the cache directory.
Yeah, I just don't really know what it does. I don't know what legacy tables are and and I'm sure I've seen it happen a number of times when I'm like, well, why would I have legacy? I just don't really understand what it does or means.
Okay.
So, um, as much as like, so I sort of agree with, I agree with your change, but like as a more longer term, like
Right.
if we don't need this, then we should just get rid of it, right?
Yep.
Rather than sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, inheriting more and more debt.
What you don't want the whole Leaning Tower of Pisa for everything? All I know is I've seen that the XKCD Leaning Tower meme too many times in the past 2 weeks.
Right. So I've asked someone there, but yeah, if you could make Danger happy, tweak, etc., and then you can sort of pass it to
Okay.
me or Raymond, I guess. Yeah, I think one of us once you're sort of ready, and we'll also see if um oh, that is a Matthias, but it's not the Matthias that I assume that you were talking about, Jim, and that I was certainly talking about earlier. So
Yes,
um
other Matthias.
cool. Awesome. Um So, what was I going to? There was a couple of things that. Um, you could maybe do a code review for me, Dennis, if you're feeling brave.
Yeah.
Um, So Missy handed me an MR to review, I think on Friday. But because she's out for at least the week, possibly longer, I sort of let's say took a bit of a bias for action. So I pushed considerable changes to it.
Mhm.
Um, are you comfortable if I stop sharing my screen? Like whether you could walk through the diff, or you can check it out, whatever you want to do. But just yeah, just any observations essentially. I'm not too
Yep.
like in the past I'd be a bit more blasé about just managing it,
Mm.
but I'm trying to be good now that we've got a nice strong team of engineers. So
Sure. Sure. After I recorded my video.
cool, awesome. Um, So, we got 10 minutes left of the session. Do you have a look now? Like I say, it's no, like I'm not expecting a sign off and get it merged, but I just think like if you're happy enough to go through and have a look at it while we're on the call, then
Ah,
we'll
you
ask.
mean now? Okay, sorry for sure.
If it's too much pressure, no drama. But as I say, it's not.
No.
It was I felt a bit bad about this one because I feel like I was the one that introduced the sort of tech debt, if that's the right word, in the first place. And this is a sort of start at refactoring some of that debt, I guess.
So what is it doing? It's tracking for contributions to public CI/CD catalog components from the wider community. Previously, contributor platform only tracked contributions to the four hard-coded groups. GitLab, this meant that CI/CD catalog components and other were not recognized on the leaderboard. This OR enables tracking of all public CI/CD catalog components by adding a service to fetch all CI/CD components and back to the task. Okay, so you did most of that, right? No, or you did some changes to Missy's. So
Yeah, I would say like I so what Missy started doing is moving like so we already had the code. It used to be called Grab Data Service, which was a terrible name, but it was the first thing that was grabbing data from somewhere. So now we've kind of restructured and hopefully it makes a bit more sense now what the three main services are. So that one's gone and we've got these three new ones now. Um, and the majority of the code is just moved across. So I guess that's the main caveat is to have a look at the code, but like I'm going to be a bit defensive if that makes sense and say, well, this was already in here. It's just been moved.
mhm.
Some comments I might be prepared to sort of say like, yeah, actually, let's improve that while we're here, or let's tweak that or whatever. Other things I'll probably say, well, that was as it is before. Let's keep it as is for now, or whatever. So yeah, it's just kind of face value, if you know what I mean. If you kind of the key probably is where we've now got the CI/CD catalog contribution service, which was newly introduced, and the
So
GitLab own. So the majority of this file is basically the code that was there before.
okay, yeah.
Um, so maybe we'll review this file last, if that makes sense. And then the new file, this kind of does some pre-work, if that makes sense, before then calling what's been moved from Grab Data Service into a shared base contribution service. So yeah, maybe just sort of walk through this and see if it kind of seems logical or sensible, if you have any scares or
Yeah, that's let me fetches all catalog components, doing process component. Process component is doing only for public visible components. So skipping all of the private ones, right?
Yep.
What should happen from that path? What's this in Ruby?
That means it's kind of like substring or whatever you call it, is take basically drop the zero character and take everything from character one onwards. So it basically drops the preceding slash.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And hopefully, when we get to the specs for this service, we'll be able to kind of join up and make sense of those specs. And so I think this service itself looks fairly simple and fairly small and
Mm,
straightforward, I hope.
yeah, looks easy understandable, let's say.
Cool. That's that. I think that's always important, right? And that's not what you'll be saying when you start looking at the base contribution service. But we've got the GitLab owned one as well. And then maybe we can have a bit of a look at the specs as well. So that's way simpler now. I tell you what, I did just spot something in there.
Okay, yeah.
Probably don't need to include that GraphQL helper in there anymore, I guess, because there's no GraphQL stuff going on.
So that one can be suggestions is
awesome.
Is this the right suggestion when removing a line? Yeah.
So the only thing you need to do, if you edit that suggestion and then just change the +0 to +1, because if we apply that suggestion, it will remove the line 5, but it will leave line 6. And so there'll be a random sort of empty line at the top of the file. But yeah, once you've submitted that, you'll see that suggestion looks correct. It's annoying that the preview doesn't quite look right.
Okay, yeah, that looks also easily
Nice and straightforward, right?
Yeah.
I like you. Similar process to me as well, like ticking them as viewed as you sort of work through them.
Yeah. So this is the rake task, which should just get all of this stuff, right? So grab the CI/CD catalog. So, okay, nothing wild here, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. The only red bit on that file was not something that we've changed or introduced, so not fussed by that.
That's deleted. That's renamed. Testing the new.
So this is quite good actually, because this helps to weirdly the grab data service, you can see like it shows it as that we've deleted the old service and we've created a new base service. It's really interesting that the spec has actually determined that it's been renamed. I don't quite know how and why Git has managed to determine that, but not determine the other rename. But the nice thing about this is you can now see the diff in here kind of helps to highlight what when we moved the code from grab data service into the base contribution service, kind of like what did we do and why, if that makes sense. And I think line 8 and 9 here kind of really highlight that essentially. Where before you just had a group, whereas now you've got a namespace type and a namespace. So that was kind of the key change to the base contribution service or grab data service was allow it to run for a project or a group. So you should see
basically that what you see. So the difference is just because you renamed this file in the same place, probably. Or what did you try to describe?
Well, what I'm like, I've never been a Git expert, and I'm surprised that it's clever that it understands that we've kind of renamed or moved this file, right? The spec, but it's not being clever enough to realize that we've moved the grab data service itself. So it realizes we've moved the spec or renamed the spec, but it doesn't realize that we've moved or renamed the actual service itself. It sees that we've deleted the old service and created a new one. It doesn't see that we've renamed it, but for some reason it does see that we've renamed the spec. I don't know why or how it does that, but it's just an observation.
I would say because it's in the same folder. You see that the service, we removed the service from, where was it? Here. So It's not
But
inside the
we've done
GitLab.
we've done exactly the same with the spec though. The spec was previously in the services folder of the spec folder, and we've now moved it to, you can see that if you click on the base contribution service spec, you see in the file change,
Ah,
you see it,
you're right.
we moved the folder there as well. I don't know, like Git's obviously got limitations to it. Maybe if you change more than a certain amount of, or keep a certain amount the same, I don't know. I honestly don't know,
Yeah,
but this is
you're
a
right.
bit more helpful. Like, I don't think we might skim through the base contribution service, but realistically, it's huge and it's messy and it's probably not worth us reviewing at this moment. But here it makes it a little bit easier to see, oh, well, you kept these specs, you just changed this.
Mm,
Okay, good, sort of thing.
yeah, processing namespaces instead of groups now.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm, I like this. So it's sad that it's not showing it on the other files.
Exactly, yeah. Maybe we should ask Christian if he can can help us.
So this is something which is our Git team is doing.
Yeah, so I don't know if this diff, if GitLab has anything to do with it, or if it's all down to Git. I think it's all down to Git. And Christian's like borrowed to our team at the moment, but primarily like works in the Git team. So he would be, if anyone knew the answer, he would be the one to know
Mm,
how it determines when a file has been renamed versus, or moved versus when it's
So it also
just,
depends. Interestingly, there's different methods you can use or different strategies. There's one called Zebra that actually handles renames a lot better than the default that GitLab
oh,
uses.
okay. Is that like a Git setting, a Git configuration option or something? Or
Yes. Let me look what the official name is.
cool.
So it's all based on the color. So it's git diff tac color tac moved equals zebra, and
Right.
that's one of the strategies. So it, instead of using the normal 1980s algorithm that Git uses, and we see
Right.
it here, it uses a one called Zebra, which d- has benefits of, like, if you move a chunk of code like just down,
Hmm.
it will highlight just the chunk of code and say, "Hey, it's one change as opposed to all these lines of
Okay.
changes." But there's other
Cool.
file changes and stuff it does different too. But the git diff tool that GitLab's using for highlighting is not smart enough to actually use that, because you tell it line numbers, it doesn't understand,
Right. Okay.
or
Okay.
something like that.
So this demonstrates well, like the slashes or the, yeah, the preceding slashes and sort of how it um
Is it to be continuous? Is that a GitLab project, or is it outside?
no, I'm not sure. Let me just find out if it's obvious or if I'm allowed to say who that is. Um, I think if you look somewhere, it makes it obvious, but I can't remember where. Oh, they've still got our old logo. Um, I can't immediately see it on the website. Oh, actually, I can. If you Google to be continuous, um, the first like, I think it's a sponsored link actually that comes up for me, takes me to developer.orange.com.
I have no idea who Orange is.
So in the UK, it's a mobile phone provider. I think it probably is in Europe as well. I don't know if they do a lot more than that. Anything more? I'm sure they probably do, but that's all I know of them.
Interesting.
So this, yeah, tests the sort of pagination and the filtering. Um, I think I cleared out. There was a bit of redundant stuff I found in that in the like rake spec here. Like we're stubbing some environment variables that we didn't seem to really need to, but awesome.
Okay. Yeah. During your talk, I just had a look. So it's good, understandable. It's yeah. Just normally I would like to test this locally.
By all means, like I probably like as I assigned Nicholas because he's got a bit of context, I might wait a day or so. Like I'm not hugely rushing to do it. So yeah, if you fancy giving it a go, um, like it's quite nice because it is just a rate task, so you can just like check it out and give it a run. Um, what I haven't done, which I suspect I probably should do as well, is run the normal grab rate task as well to make sure we haven't broken the legacy data import. So that's probably a good idea. And there was one more thing that I remember that I was going to attempt last night and obviously got distracted at some point. Um, which was going to be to everything in the grab data service. No, everything in the base contribution service spec. I was going to move into a shared spec. And I was going to run the whole test suite with namespace type set to group and then run it all again with namespace type set to project just to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. I could see when you were looking at the base contribution service, there was one uncovered line. Um, and that is because it's only currently being run for group, so it's
Mm.
not hitting that code path. So we should probably, yeah, have both those, or maybe even if I just add a specific case for whatever this part of it's doing, maybe I just check that when this method is called, which I think it's a GraphQL query method, when it's called with group, then it renders this query, and when it's called with project, it renders this query, and maybe that's a nicer, simpler way of doing it.
Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks all for jumping on, and have a great day.